Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to our session today. Today, me and Jeff are going to give a presentation on how we utilize Mendix to create an efficient and centralized user interface for Opcenter RD&L. So before we jump into the content of the presentation, we want to take a moment to introduce ourselves. My name is Tyler Knott. I have 10 years of automotive experience. For the last 6 years, I've been with Yazaki. My main experience has been with high voltage validation and design of our wiring and electronics. More recently, I've moved into an EMC engineering role. So I've been working in our testing center doing EMC work and other testing activities. When it pertains to this project, I've been what we've been calling a business lead. So I've been working with our management teams to define all the requirements of the application and then actually set the deadlines for the project for when we were going live. Jeff?
Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Malaki. I've been at Yazaki for 21 years out of my 26 years in automotive industry. I've done things from engineering to manufacturing. I was in technology management, which was in intellectual property management as well. And within the last year, I was brought into our testing center to join Tyler on the development side of the Mendix and become a product owner and working with him and be able to stay in line with the business needs.
Thanks, Jeff. The big driving force here is neither of us are IT. We're both business engineers. We don't have any software experience prior to this project, so just keep that in mind. So who is Yazaki? Yazaki is the world's largest automotive wiring supplier. We do about $16 billion a year, with $5 billion being generated here in North America. We've been in the auto industry for over 80 years. We operate in over 40 countries globally. Our North American headquarters is here in Canton, Michigan, about 20 minutes northwest of Detroit. We're in every major OEM in the world, so likely whatever vehicle you're driving, we have some type of content in your vehicle. Adjacent to our North American headquarters pictured here, we work in our testing center. We have about 40 employees within the lab. We do about 2,000 to 3,000 requests every year, and this is where our project's being deployed and developed. So what are we going to get into today? We're going to get into the challenges and the solutions that we came up with Mendix in regard to Opcenter, why we chose Mendix over other competitors, the development process we went in for our application, some of the achieved results that we had from our development, and the key takeaways that we want to give to you guys today from our development. So what was the situation that we got into, why we needed a UI for Opcenter? We had an aging lab management system that was really hitting the maximum functionality we could achieve with it. So being that the automotive industry is moving so quickly and we needed a new technology to keep up with how everyone else is doing business these days, we decided to investigate for a new lab management system. To accommodate this need, we set up 3 requirements that we needed to absolutely have. We needed to be able to take our test requests and have them submitted directly into our system. We needed our lab personnel to maintain the requests in the system without having to jump between different systems. And then we needed to eliminate our manual processes. Everyone's favorite tool is Excel, right? We were very dependent on Excel. We would have our requesters fill out an Excel form that would have to get emailed to their manager for approval, get emailed into our lab for another approval, and then manually imported into our old system. So it was a very, very inefficient system. So our IT investigated different LIMS systems, and we ended up coming back with Opcenter RD&L, which is research, development, and laboratory, if you're not familiar with that flavor of Opcenter. But we quickly realized there were some challenges with our unique development needs. As you can see, there's a few challenges here, but I'm going to highlight a couple of them. The UI. The UI with Opcenter is, it presents unique challenges for people who don't normally use the system. So it may be, some of our users come in maybe once, twice a year and aren't into the system very often, and Opcenter's user interface may confuse them just because of its intuitiveness wasn't necessarily there for our business needs. It was also difficult for us to customize. We had a lot of different abilities of the system we wanted. We weren't able to provide it up front with the interface. And then the training. We have potentially up to 1,000 engineers that could come into this system that need to use it. There's a whole big development team behind this project, me and Jeff. So that's a lot of people to have to train with just 2 people. So we don't have the resources between us to be able to constantly be doing training for everyone in our company. So what did that lead to? We needed a solution which was a low-code solution for Opcenter. So that led into our evaluation process. The biggest thing that we found as looking at other competitors to Mendix was they didn't have a native Opcenter connection. Obviously, being that we're looking for a user interface for Opcenter, that's very important. If we needed to do any type of major changes or developments within the app, that required IT to have to go in and do traditional coding to build those bridges. Also, just trying to get the desired user interface that we wanted from the other competitors, it just wasn't as flexible as Mendix was. So ultimately, it led us into our final choice of going with Mendix. It had the native Opcenter connections, so there was no need to have traditional coding laid out. The ability for us to customize for our Opcenter needs was a big plus with Mendix because it has that native connection. It connects well with all the other Siemens suite products. And also, when we were doing our quotations, we dealt with the development team from Mendix very in depth, and their response times were just fantastic. We got all the information we needed. It allowed our management teams to communicate directly with Mendix and feel comfortable making that decision moving forward with them. So why did we choose Mendix? There's quite a few reasons up here. Jeff will get more into it on the development side, but I have two I really want to hit. So the strong proof of concept. When we went in for the quote, we approached Mendix and said, hey, we really need a quick down and dirty version of an app to be able to sell our management team. So within 2 days of us asking for that, we had a fully developed demo app that we could take and show our management teams and say, hey, here's all the capabilities that we need, and these are all the things that we could possibly do. You know, the demo came back skinned in our corporate website, so now, hey, look, we can set corporate templates. So also the self-documentation was another big point. In Studio Pro, which is the development software for Mendix, you can make notes on all the different things that you're doing. So, you know, when you're making flows and doing all different variable identifications, you can take those notes and be able to show someone who's coming in behind you, hey, this is what I was doing, these are the things that I need you to understand. You know, eventually neither me or Jeff are going to be in this type of position forever. You know, some of us are closer to retirement than others. So you got to have that type of legacy backup. So what does that bring us to? This brings us to our portal. This is our app. It's called Yazaki Testing Portal. We were able to do key characteristics of this app that met all of our system requirements of having to receive a request directly, maintain it, and make our process less manual. Now, the nice thing too is we were able to minimize our training for this. With how intuitive we were able to make the user interface, we have people going into the system that have never been trained, submitting test requests, and us being able to process them. Another nice caveat with this system is we are able to make our test requests in the form of a DVP&R. If you're not familiar with that, it is the list of documented requirements that a component needs to be able to be produced by an OEM. So our requesters are able to go into the system, take all the requirements that they have in their pre-built DVP&R from the customer, replicate it in our system, and we're able to generate it back in the form that they're familiar with. So that's a really big thing for us, and possibly in the future, we want to use this system to start generating some of our DVP&Rs for our internal components, which Jeff will kind of hint on that later on. So I'm gonna hand it off to Jeff, and he's gonna start walking you through our development process.
Good afternoon again. I'd like to start with our timeline. So one takeaway I want to point out for this timeline is it's a 16-month lead. So from the out-of-the-box development from the RD&L all the way up to Mendix, fully app production sense, it took 16 months. But out of those 16 months, only 6 months of it was a Mendix development. And I want to remind you guys that neither one of us are software developers, so we were able to learn it and grasp it and use it within 6 months. One funny thing about it is we were in a meeting with executive management not too long ago, and one of the things that they mentioned is they asked us when we start developing this app, and I said September, and they're like, what year? Because a lot of times they're not familiar with that quick of a turnaround. They're thinking a year and a half, 2-year turnaround, which in normal sense within Yazaki it would have taken, but again, it was really fast for us. So going through the development process, we started with the RD&L APS linkage. So as we realized that RD&L Opcenter is something that we started with, and we had to start with something that had, we basically used that as a skeleton of our process. And when we were going through that, we quickly understood that how we wanted to structure our app and everything else. And then also with that, we had the life cycle, which is like the request statuses and stuff. We understood what we wanted to do with the life cycles within RD&L Opcenter. We haven't even hit Mendix yet. And also, we have another app that's connected with RD&L Opcenter, which is also a Siemens tool called APS, which is our scheduler. And that's all coincide working together. And for those two things to work together, there's some libraries and stuff we have to build on the APS side to be functional. So just to start off our process, we had to get these three things in line in order to move forward. So this one's pretty close to my heart because I use this quite a bit. Is the learning from Mendix. Mendix has a lot of different sources that you can use to learn. In other areas of low code, we did not ever see this type of activity. I want to mention a couple. For example, Mendix Academy is something, that's where I learned. Mendix Academy is a very good opportunity for you to go there, and actually it's like an online module, and it takes you from the beginning of learning a Mendix app all the way through to building it, and gives you all the insights and all the tricks and stuff to go with it. So I really encourage you to use that. And the next other thing is the way Tyler learned, he did the experience days. It's kind of similar to the online module, but instead you have a live Mendix expert with you. And it's all online still, team meeting. And you work as a group. He or she puts you through the process all the way from beginning to the end. And you leave there with an app. Maybe it's not for your business, but something that you can reference later to build your own app. So it was very helpful for me and for Tyler. The next thing is the development collaboration. We quickly realized that we definitely need to collaborate with a lot of different areas to make this successful. Mendix experts, RD&L experts. We have Yazaki, or the business leads, which would be Tyler, for example, in our IT department. So there's two items that I really want to bring to attention is the Mendix expert. All I can say is the expert is your best friend through this process. I couldn't get through it without him. And for example, he was in a conference for Mendix somewhere, I don't even know where he was, and I was having a big issue that I couldn't solve. And I just emailed him, not expecting he would respond because I knew he was out of town. Next thing I know he's online with me, and he's working with other developers at this conference while it's going. I don't know, he said he had a team of people in the corner just trying to figure this out for us, and within hours we had our issue fixed. That's something that we've never experienced before, so that was very big help. Another thing is the IT department. We really, really wanted to leverage our IT department. Without IT governing the security and giving you the space to work the servers and stuff, none of this would have been true. So if you're a developer that's within the business, make sure you keep your IT involved with that process. The next thing is application features integration. What you see here is 4 different applications that we considered critical for us to be successful. The first one is a role-based access. Like Tyler said, we have 1,000 engineers that's going to be utilizing this at any given day, and the turnover can be all over the place for employment. It's hard to keep track of that. Like we're only the developing team of 2 to try to keep track of all these users over our industry. So with the Active Directory link that's already in place within the Mendix toolset, where you're easily able to connect to that and be able to control utilizing our company's Active Directory. So it actually took a lot of weight off our shoulders in having to keep up with that. The next thing is the live tracking. I mentioned APS earlier, which is our scheduler. Well, we want to feed into that. We want to extract that APS information back into Mendix. So just to give you some insight how we have it connected, you start with Mendix. It pushes into Opcenter RD&L. Then it gets pushed into APS. And now we want to pull that information back into Mendix, which is the scheduler. So we have this circle process. Well, there's 3 things you need to have done. We need the connection from Mendix to Opcenter RD&L, which Tyler mentioned is already baked into the Mendix toolset. The Opcenter RD&L and APS connection was already established, and then we were able to extract it using an SQL connection that was already embedded into the Mendix toolset as well. So the SQL extraction was a very easy process to develop. The next thing is in-app approvals. We're all in the Microsoft workspace, working with Outlook, etc. We wanted to tie in our Mendix into that, and we use Microsoft Graph to do that. And again, that's a tool that's already embedded in the Mendix toolset. Very easy to connect with IT's approvals and stuff and the security around it. And we were able to extract it and be able to provide email notifications based on statuses and stuff like that to our requester. Keep in mind, our old system never did that. So that was a huge improvement for us within our team. And the last thing is a File Explorer connection. We want to have a way to create a File Explorer tree, if you will, that is shaped the same way as the Mendix tool, the way we have it shaped. Basically, you have the test request, and then we have things underneath it and so on. We want that same structure, but in a file structure, so our teams can put pictures in there, test results, and all this stuff to keep it out of the Mendix server. Well, how do we do that? There's a connector within Mendix called SFTP, and it creates an SFTP folder structure automatically by the push of a button based on the structure, the same structure of what that request is. And that's very powerful for all of us. The next thing is Scrum. So we're engineers. What is Scrum? We have no idea what Scrum is. But after going through this, we're Scrum supporters. We absolutely harness the Scrum process. We use 30-day sprints to go forward with it. And actually, because of that agile method, we're really able to consistently release new features, etc. And we continue to do that on a daily basis. With that Scrum process, we have to identify some key stakeholders, right? So we've identified 3 key stakeholders, and this is for the beta test process. We identified the project lead, which is within our business testing center. They'll get the test requests, and they're the ones that control it. And then we had the test managers, so basically our management that brings in the test requests, and they approve them, and then they assign the project lead. And then last, you have the requesters themselves. That's probably the most important one. And we leverage there as a stakeholder as well. What's nice about Mendix is it has a feature right inside there called feedback. Feedback is something that we used all the time. I think we had like 600 and some feedbacks from so far, and we utilize that. And what's nice about those feedbacks is you can take those feedbacks, feed it back into your Scrum process, and then roll it in through your sprint. And then the requesters who created the feedback will see the process, and when is their feedback can actually be released. We use that all the time. Again, it's only 2 of us. That's the only way we can keep control of everything that's going on through our app. Like I said, 600 so far. So, production launch. I can happily say that we've launched it on April 2nd, successfully, on time, which is unheard of in the automotive industry. So, because of the agile approach, we are able to have no business stoppages, which is huge also because anyone who's in automotive, the changeover and the speed of automotive is rapidly moving, and we have to keep up with that. And we can't do that without the agile approach. So because of the agile approach, there's some things that we wanted to release in future sprints that we were able to bring it forward so we can release them quicker. And as our knowledge gets better with Mendix, we're able to do that faster as well. So noteworthy development points. Some of these I already mentioned, but I'll mention them again. For our case, the importance of Opcenter RD&L framework was key. The Mendix app that we developed looks similar to an RD&L Opcenter as it's structured, but with a really easy UI experience. Utilize all available Mendix support resources. We use them all. We continue using those. In fact, my expert, I talked to him yesterday, so I'm still using him, and he's always there for us. Have IT involved early. This is huge for us. You don't start an app, and especially if you're going to go in a production sense and don't have IT involved. Make sure they're involved from the beginning. That way, when you're ready to launch your app, you have all your security in place, and you have the servers and everything else you need in place at that time. And ensure by stakeholders. Stakeholder is very important. I mean, they're the ones that are going to use your products, right? So During beta testing, our stakeholders were key with the feedback module. I highly suggest that. So we had a lot of actually a lot of feedback coming from different sources within our organization. You can see across the top, there's a few of those. The one in the center I want to bring out the most is, this is a senior manager who's been at Yazaki over 20 years, and he's gone through a lot of different software releases. And he said this was the smoothest release launch he's ever experienced in his career. So coming from two engineers who've never done this before and hearing that was really rewarding for us. And I don't think, I mean, the way the Mendix is structured, I don't think we could have done anything like that with anything else. Training is, it was a big thing for us because there's two of us. We were able to train in groups. We had 2 sessions of like 150 people each. And we just went through it once. We have a video of our training, very easy. But what's funny is Tyler kind of mentioned it, but there was one person, one of our stakeholders, that went into our system without any training before we even had training. And all of a sudden, a test request appears on our radar, and we're like, well, what is this? And we looked at it, we're thinking it's going to be all wrong. It was absolutely right. It was exactly a DV-PNR structure that we were looking for. And we didn't even tell them how to do it. So we knew at that point that our UI is improved so much. We look back at the RD&L, we're like, I can't imagine how we could have done this without that. What's next? We have 9 items here. This is only some of them. It continues to grow, and you got to keep in mind, we're only on a single app application right now. So we're trying to dabble into multi-app, but some of these, or a lot of these here, are within the single app still. For example, mobile integration. Right now, we have operators that work on test requests at the machine that don't have a laptop. They have a desktop. So they have to go downstairs, work on their equipment, go upstairs, put their feedback in from their tests, go up, keep walking up. It's really inefficient. With the tablet integration, we're able to utilize tablets to scan barcodes if we need. We can, they could put their data directly into the tools right at the job itself. So we call that muda in the Japanese organization, which means waste. And our organization is a big advocate of removing as much muda as we can. And that's a huge muda removal in our process. The next one is auto-generating reporting. This one also removes muda. But what we're doing today is we have our project leads that are putting in, they're making these reports off from their test requests, and they're putting it in Word. They're not doing it in Mendix. They're pulling the information out of Mendix and putting it in a Word. What we want to do is we want to use Mendix to create a report that spits out based on a specific template that we decide, and it's the same every time. And they don't have to write it. It's all based on the data that is in the system. The last thing, this was kind of an interesting scenario. A few weeks ago, we went to an event in Detroit that Mendix held. It was at the Lyft complex over in Detroit. And they demonstrated Mendix workstation. What that workstation does is you can take like a smart system, like a smart torque wrench or a smart like a temperature gauge or something, and you can bring that right into the tool set. Because right now we have to like write it on a piece of paper and put it in. It's not all connected. With the Mendix workstation, we can connect that and have real live data and get KPIs out of it, etc. We are on the list to be doing some beta testing, and we're really looking forward to working in that arena. So the last thing I want to bring to the table is our key takeaways from this. Again, because of Mendix, Opcenter had some limitations as far as what we wanted as a UI experience. There's some gaps there that we didn't anticipate, but Mendix was able to fill those gaps. Empower non-IT members. So that's us. We're in the business. We both know, he was the business lead, but we both know what the business wanted. And I was able to make the app based on what the business was required. And it was really nice to have that customized feel for what we need for our business to make it right. And then extend the functionality of homegrown system, styling templates, corporate templates. We already know that every group has their own template. With Mendix, we're able to standardize that. And as we move forward to a multi-app solution, we can utilize that same template all over our company and be on the same page. Lastly is identify testing center improvements. So within our old system, we were tailoring our quality system based on what our software system can do because of the limitations. Well, now with Mendix, we can go both ways. We can have Mendix tailor what our business process is, and we can have our business process tailor what our tool can do. And when we're doing that, we're noticing there's gaps that we never identified before, that was very beneficial for us to be more efficient. So I'm going to hand it back over to Tyler.
Thanks, Jeff. So that was our experience and our journey with Mendix, putting it up as a new user interface for Opcenter, and we're quite proud of what we're able to achieve since neither of us have had this type of experience in the past. So we're happy to hear any questions if you guys have any.
Okay, thank you everyone. Appreciate it.